I can still feel the smooth ceramic of the coffee mug warming my palms, my excitement bubbling up like the latte's foam. $20 million, Nexus Tech's biggest acquisition ever, and I'd secured it after 3 months of relentless strategy sessions. The cafe door swung open, momentarily letting in the sounds of traffic. Victor appeared with Diana from HR, their expressions jarringly mismatched with my triumph. "Avery," Victor said, his voice deliberately neutral despite my achievement, "we need to discuss something." Diana placed a sleek folder on the table between us, sliding it toward me with polished fingernails. My name was printed precisely on the label. "What's this about?" I asked, though the sudden heaviness in my chest already knew the answer. "Termination documents," Diana said quietly. "Effective immediately." The coffee suddenly tasted bitter. I set it down, feeling my fingers tense as I opened the folder. "Cultural alignment concerns," Victor explained, his eyes fixed somewhere over my shoulder. "The company is pursuing a different strategic direction." The text swam before my eyes as indignation surged through me. 3 years of dedication ended with a folder and corporate jargon. Around us, cafe patrons glanced curiously at our table while my phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from my team. I looked up from the papers, my shock crystallizing into icy resolve. "Did you even review the contractual obligations in the acquisition agreement, Victor?" Looking back, I should have anticipated this. 3 years of 70-hour weeks developing proprietary systems that Victor could never comprehend. I'd become Nexus Tech's foundation, resolving technical crises he created, smoothing over his confusing presentations with clients who preferred my straightforward approach. I remained committed, believing in our vision despite Victor's intensifying jealousy of my accomplishments. I even defended him during investor meetings, attributing innovations to him that were entirely mine. The revelation came when I discovered an internal strategy document mistakenly sent to my email. It outlined Victor's presentation to investors regarding his $20 million acquisition. My contribution appeared nowhere in the 15-page report. Instead, Victor had detailed his supposed technical insights and client relationships that made it possible. What stung most deeply wasn't the betrayal but the calculated timing. He waited until I finalized the contracts, until the funding was secured, then discarded me just before the bonus period, ensuring my substantial commission would never materialize. I delivered everything he demanded. His response, a termination folder and practiced sympathy. "The board feels you're challenging to collaborate with," he'd added as I gathered my belongings. "Too autonomous, not aligned with our team values." Translation: I was highlighting his inadequacies by excelling at my role. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shed tears. I didn't plead for reinstatement. When Diana handed me a designer tote bag for my personal items, I simply acknowledged it with a nod and began collecting my things. "You're handling this remarkably well," she whispered when Victor stepped away to take a call. I managed a controlled smile. "It's just business strategies, right?" My assistant Oliver embraced me firmly as I left. "This feels completely wrong," he murmured. Several employees observed in stunned silence as building security accompanied me through the lobby. I maintained my composure and dignity, branded tote in hand, walking past the presentation room where expensive refreshments awaited to celebrate what was now Victor's claimed victory. In my Tesla, I finally released the breath I'd been holding. My fingers instinctively moved to my jacket's interior pocket, feeling the outline of the encrypted flash drive I'd kept there for months as a precaution. It contained every technical document I'd created, every agreement I'd drafted, and every algorithmic component I'd personally registered through my independent LLC rather than under Nexus Tech's ownership. Victor believed he was eliminating competition. He had no concept of how meticulously I'd documented everything. The underground parking structure was deserted as I started my car. Before departing, I opened my secured laptop one final time and forwarded myself copies of my most recent email correspondence chains. Documentation. Protection. Strategic assets. This situation was far from concluded. In my condominium, I arranged the termination documents across my granite kitchen island. Most executives skimmed over the legal terminology. I analyzed every word. With both parents practicing corporate law, I'd learned to scrutinize contractual details others typically overlooked. That's when I discovered a critical oversight in my dismissal protocol. According to the acquisition agreement I'd signed that morning, I retained limited power of attorney for 17 days to ensure seamless transition of client relationships and technical implementations. Victor had been so hasty to remove me that he neglected to revoke these temporary authorizations. I activated my laptop and accessed the acquisition documentation. There it was in explicit terms: 17 days of legitimate access to systems, vendor partnerships, and contractual frameworks, all deemed necessary to ensure successful implementation. My hands quivered slightly with realization. 17 days wasn't extensive, but in Silicon Valley's accelerated environment, it represented unlimited potential if leveraged strategically. I poured myself an actual glass of champagne. 17 days, I whispered to my elegantly furnished but empty condominium, to reconstruct from the ashes. An unusual serenity washed over me. This wasn't about vengeance. This was about accountability. Victor had constructed his reputation by exploiting talent like mine. It was time he experienced the consequences of betraying someone with both technical expertise and legal understanding. At 2 a.m., fueled by delivery sushi and calculated determination, I began implementing my strategy. Few people realized that Nexus Tech's flagship platform operated on proprietary API libraries I'd developed through my personal LLC before joining the company. I'd licensed these components to Nexus. I hadn't transferred ownership. I accessed my license management dashboard and initiated the process. Systematically, I revoked authorization to critical API endpoints that powered Nexus Tech's core services. The elegance lay in its legitimacy: no unauthorized access, no illegal activities, simply exercising my contractual right to withdraw permission to my intellectual property. By 4 a.m., the changes propagated through the cloud infrastructure. I monitored through legitimate administrative tools as error notifications began flooding Nexus Tech's system logs. Their primary client interface, scheduled for demonstration to a potential investor that afternoon, would begin displaying authentication failures within hours. I closed my laptop and finally sought rest. My phone vibrated with a message from Oliver as consciousness faded: something's seriously wrong with the platform architecture. Victor is completely unraveling. I smiled into my pillow. The developer console would display a simple notification to Nexus Tech's engineering team: API authentication failed. Contact license holder for access restoration. Victor would soon discover precisely who controlled the intellectual property. The next morning, I initiated digital communications. Dozens of them. "Hello Megan, it's Avery. Regarding that confidentiality agreement enabling me to discuss your proprietary technology with Nexus Tech, I need to formally notify you that my employment has been terminated." Systematically, I contacted every technology partner and vendor in my professional network. I wasn't requesting they sever ties with Nexus Tech, that wasn't necessary. Most of our partnership agreements contained clauses requiring my specific involvement, and without my continued participation, certain confidentiality provisions expired automatically. By noon, vendors were implementing communication blackouts with Nexus Tech. Software partners diverted calls to voicemail. Data providers initiated credential verification protocols. Integration specialists referenced contractual language requiring my explicit authorization for continued implementation. I didn't misrepresent anything. I simply notified them of my departure and referenced our existing contractual obligations. The chain reaction proceeded organically. At 2:17 p.m., a notification arrived from Oliver: "Victor just received an urgent call from CloudStack Solutions. They're suspending integration access because their designated point of contact is no longer with the company." His complexion literally transformed before my eyes. I felt a sense of validation spreading through me. The system cascade had initiated. What's the current situation? I messaged in response. Oliver's reply appeared almost instantly: complete technical meltdown. The engineering team can't resolve anything. Victor is threatening termination for the entire development division. Day 3 brought operational paralysis to Nexus Tech. According to my internal contacts, Victor had assembled an emergency response team to address the technical disruptions. Senior engineers were perplexed; they couldn't identify why critical systems were failing. Their diagnostics only confirmed that essential services continued returning authentication failures or timing out entirely. The legal department was equally bewildered. Someone had retrieved my employment agreements and uncovered the intricate network of personal intellectual property licenses I'd established. These aren't standard corporate protections, I imagined them realizing. These are meticulously crafted legal safeguards. By mid-afternoon, Victor was demonstrating clear signs of distress. He'd convened a company-wide video conference where he ranted about technical sabotage and organizational disloyalty without directly referencing me. Employees exchanged confused messages in private chats while systems continued deteriorating around them. My final strategic action that day was sending a precisely worded email to Nexus Tech's primary investor, Jonathan Hodge, from a secure public address that couldn't be associated with my identity. Regarding the recent $20 million acquisition, has anyone provided details about Section 14B and its potential financial implications? You might find it beneficial to discuss this with Victor before the 30-day contractual milestone. I knew Jonathan wasn't an investor who tolerated being uninformed about material risks. The accountability process was now in motion. Victor might believe he controlled the company, but he was about to confront the reality that perceived control dissolves when the technical foundation disintegrates. Section 14B was my strategic masterpiece, embedded within the 120-page acquisition agreement. It established mandatory performance metrics that required verification within 30 days of execution. If specific key performance indicators weren't achieved, particularly system availability, user engagement metrics, and data processing efficiency standards, the entire $20 million would automatically revert to the original client. The brilliant element? These performance metrics were measured exclusively through the monitoring systems I had just legitimately deactivated. I'd incorporated this section as a safeguard, recognizing Victor never scrutinized contractual details. The client had enthusiastically accepted it, viewing it as security for their substantial investment. The company's legal team had endorsed it, presuming our infrastructure would comfortably satisfy these benchmarks. No one recognized the critical connection that I maintained control over these measurement systems through my properly registered licenses. Now, with the platform offline and technology partners implementing communication holds, Nexus Tech couldn't possibly fulfill the requirements. The 30-day contractual period was advancing, and approximately $20 million would soon transfer back from Nexus Tech's financial accounts. I visualized Victor's expression when Jonathan Hodge contacted him to address this overlooked provision that somehow escaped his CEO's attention. This thought brought me a sense of professional validation as I prepared my subsequent strategic steps. The leadership crisis materialized more rapidly than anticipated. Jonathan Hodge didn't merely contact Victor, he arrived personally for an emergency board session, accompanied by his specialized legal counsel. Through Oliver, I learned that Jonathan had responded intensely upon discovering the reversal provision. You're telling me this entire acquisition could collapse because of technical systems currently experiencing authentication failures? Systems apparently owned through personal licenses by the executive you just terminated? Additional investors joined the escalating concern. Nexus Tech stock value declined 12% within a single trading day as market speculation circulated regarding the company's operational stability. Financial analysts began investigating the $20 million acquisition that had been publicly celebrated just days earlier. That evening, I sent precisely crafted messages to 3 of Nexus Tech's significant investors, individuals with whom I'd established professional relationships during previous funding initiatives. Considering recent developments, I would welcome an opportunity to share some alternative strategic perspectives. Perhaps dinner next week? All three responded within hours. They requested meetings with greater urgency. My home office whiteboard was now organized with strategic diagrams and implementation timelines. Victor believed he was derailing my professional trajectory. Instead, he had inadvertently provided me with the ideal circumstances to construct something more meaningful. Victor refused to concede without resistance. On day 7, he initiated his counteroffensive through an internal communication that rapidly leaked to technology industry publications. Recent system disruptions originate from actions taken by a former executive who demonstrated increasingly unpredictable behavior and concerning performance patterns during her final quarters with the company. He characterized me as unstable, describing my work as inconsistent and claiming I had become detrimental to team effectiveness. He implied I had orchestrated my departure to damage the organization, portraying my legitimate licensing practices as corporate sabotage. Technology blogs amplified these claims, publishing headlines such as Nexus Tech CEO alleges former executive orchestrated system failures and Silicon Valley drama. Did Avery Morrison deliberately sabotage platform after major acquisition? I maintained public silence, but privately forwarded a single-voice recording to Jonathan Hodge, a clip from 3 months earlier where Victor had explicitly stated his intention to claim credit for my work on the $20 million acquisition. When this closes, his voice declared unmistakably in the recording, "The board will attribute this success to my leadership." That's simply organizational reality, Avery. I'm the CEO. Strategic victories belong to me. The recording concluded with my measured response, "That perspective seems fundamentally inequitable, Victor." His dismissive laughter continues to resonate with me. Equity? This is corporate strategy, Avery. Develop some professional maturity. The voice recording represented merely the beginning. I had systematically documented everything throughout my tenure, not because I anticipated this particular scenario, but because my professional experience with Victor had taught me to maintain comprehensive records. Now I strategically shared selected screenshots with trusted industry contacts. These digital artifacts revealed Victor dismissing security compliance alerts, disparaging strategic partners in private communications, and openly boasting about how he would appropriate credit for acquisitions where his contribution was minimal. In one particularly revealing email, Victor had written, "Let Avery handle the technical implementation details. Her expertise is useful for that. I'll manage the strategic narrative with the board." As these documented communications circulated among industry professionals, Nexus Tech's market credibility deteriorated rapidly. Clients began reassessing their engagement terms. Partners requested alternative relationship managers. Competitors strategically positioned themselves, recognizing vulnerability. The decisive public impact occurred when a prominent Nexus Tech investor posted cryptically on social media, "Deeply concerning governance information emerging. Considering formal recommendation for regulatory investigation into specific executive practices." Victor's reputation management strategy had backfired dramatically. My communication channels were inundated, journalists requesting statements, former colleagues seeking clarification, even executive recruiters extending opportunities. I declined all engagement. I wasn't seeking alternative employment. I was establishing accountability. On day 10, I deployed my definitive evidence. Few realized I had implemented an advanced compliance monitoring system within Nexus Tech's infrastructure, with complete authorization from legal and information security departments. Its purpose was entirely legitimate, tracking system access patterns to ensure regulatory compliance for our financial technology clients. What Victor never comprehended was that this system recorded comprehensive activity logs, including his own digital footprint, every authentication, every document accessed, every communication transmitted through corporate servers. I hadn't intended to utilize this information, but his public mischaracterization necessitated response. Through a secured anonymous channel, I transmitted a protected data archive to Nexus Tech's board members. It contained authenticated logs demonstrating Victor had accessed confidential client information without proper authorization. More significantly, It revealed financial transfers to an entity called Strategic Implementation Partners, an organization existing solely as a legal construct. These transfers corresponded precisely with new client acquisitions, indicating a pattern of potential kickbacks or unauthorized compensation arrangements. I included a straightforward statement: "This explains why my termination became necessary." I designed the compliance monitoring system that identified these patterns. Victor had terminated me to eliminate evidence of his actions. Now those actions were comprehensively documented for board examination, illuminated in irrefutable digital evidence. By day 12, Nexus Tech's organizational culture had thoroughly disintegrated. The innovative, collaborative environment I'd helped cultivate was now fractured by distrust and operational uncertainty. Oliver reported that executive leadership had stopped participating in weekly strategy lunches. Employees communicated in private channels, conversations abruptly terminating when Victor entered virtual meetings. Mid-level directors began refreshing their professional profiles on networking platforms, anticipating the inevitable. The talent exodus initiated with Noah, the CFO, who announced his immediate departure to focus on family priorities. Everyone recognized this as professional self-preservation. Then Isabella from product development submitted her resignation, followed by 2 principal engineers. Each departure further destabilized Nexus Tech's foundation. These weren't merely employees, they represented the organization's collective institutional knowledge, departing with irreplaceable expertise and cultivated client relationships. That evening, I received a message from Isabella: "I'm hearing industry rumors about your new venture. I want to participate." Noah expressed interest too. He's looking for a more ethical environment. I hadn't formally announced any plans, yet the professional network was already actively discussing possibilities regarding my next strategic initiative. Before retiring that night, I outlined a comprehensive business framework with a straightforward mission statement: developing technology with transparency, accountability, and collaborative recognition. Everything Nexus Tech publicly claimed but failed to practice. On day 14, I formalized the initiative. I registered Quantum Paradigm as a Delaware C Corporation and established our corporate financial accounts with a significant personal capital contribution. I'd been conceptualizing this venture for months, though under different circumstances. Our formal mission statement read: creating ethical technology solutions through transparent leadership and collaborative innovation, embodying everything Nexus Tech proclaimed but never implemented. The investors I'd engaged with demonstrated enthusiasm for providing seed funding. They'd reviewed the internal documentation, examined the recorded evidence, and recognized the opportunity to support authentic innovation leadership from Nexus Tech. Within 48 hours, we secured $3 million in initial capitalization, a remarkable achievement for a newly registered entity. I strategically synchronized our press announcement to coincide with Nexus Tech's anticipated restructuring statement. Their negative corporate news would be overshadowed by our launch, and technology journalists would naturally identify the connection. The media release was finalized for distribution, the corporate website prepared for activation. The founding team, already including 7 former Nexus Tech professionals, awaited the official commencement. As I confirmed the final operational details, I reflected on Victor's dismissal statement: the company is pursuing a different strategic direction. He had no comprehension of how prophetic those words would prove. While Quantum Paradigm established its foundation, Nexus Tech continued its dramatic organizational collapse. They failed to meet the performance benchmark specified in Section 14B, triggering the $20 million contractual reversion. Their primary enterprise client publicly announced they were evaluating alternative technology partners following concerning service interruptions. Unable to resolve the technical authentication issues I'd legitimately created, Victor engaged expensive external consultants who recommended a complete platform reconstruction. The estimated implementation requirements: $6 million with an 8-month development timeline. The board expressed immediate resistance. Workforce reductions commenced, initially affecting contractors, then junior personnel, ultimately reaching director-level management. Employee engagement deteriorated completely. productivity metrics collapsed. Each operational day introduced new speculation regarding Nexus Tech's imminent dissolution. When our media announcement was distributed introducing quantum paradigm, redefining ethical technology solutions, it gained widespread attention within hours. The narrative developed organically. Former Nexus Tech executive establishes competitor following controversial termination. Technology publications created side-by-side analysis. Nexus Tech implementing workforce reductions while Quantum Paradigm announced active recruitment. The juxtaposition couldn't have been more revealing. I had no need to publicly criticize Victor, his own decisions were creating sufficient consequences. As my mother, a seasoned corporate attorney, often remarked, provide an unethical person enough opportunity and they'll create their own downfall. Victor had exhausted all professional credibility. On day 17, my final day of contractual system access, a video appeared on social media. It captured Victor during a client presentation meeting several months earlier, interrupting my technical demonstration to inform the client what Avery is attempting to express is. Before proceeding to completely mischaracterize the platform's technical specifications. The footage captured my visible restraint as Victor struggled through technically inaccurate explanations. When the client directed a specific implementation question toward me, Victor interrupted again, "I'll address the complex technical considerations." The recording concluded with Victor's most revealing statement, "Avery becomes excessively invested in technical specifications. That's precisely why she functions in implementation rather than strategic leadership." The upload originated from a former product designer's account and accumulated 2 million views within 24 hours. Leadership recognition began trending across professional networks. I deliberately waited a full day before adding a single response. He claimed my technical passion disqualified me from leadership. Apparently, that same passion builds transformative companies. The comment received 500,000 professional endorsements. Observing from my newly established headquarters, I experienced an unexpected sense of appreciation toward Victor. Without his professional betrayal, I might have remained in his organizational shadow indefinitely, never fully realizing my leadership potential. The conclusive damage to Victor's professional credibility emerged from within. Noah, the former CFO, approached the Securities and Exchange Commission with documentation revealing Victor had misrepresented Nexus Tech's financial position to secure the $20 million acquisition. The manipulated revenue projections displayed consistent growth when actual financial data indicated concerning declines. Victor had leveraged everything on the acquisition to conceal Nexus Tech's financial vulnerabilities, only to lose the capital through the contractual reversal provision. The SEC initiated a formal investigation. Nexus Tech securities were temporarily suspended from trading pending regulatory review. Investors responded with immediate concern, demanding emergency shareholder meetings and contemplating legal action. I received communication from an SEC investigator requesting my cooperation. I agreed without hesitation, providing copies of all documentation I had legally retained during my employment with Nexus Tech. "We've been monitoring this organization's practices for some time," the investigator informed me, but required someone with direct operational knowledge to provide confirmation. I hadn't anticipated this level of regulatory scrutiny, but Victor's actions had triggered consequences beyond my strategic calculations. The investigation would continue for months. Victor's corporate influence wouldn't sustain itself that long. In an unanticipated development, Diana from Human Resources emerged as an unexpected advocate. Confronted with SEC investigators and potential personal legal consequences, she chose self-preservation by disclosing the actual circumstances surrounding my termination. She provided federal investigators with authenticated email communications revealing Victor had mandated my dismissal the day following my successful closure of the $20 million acquisition, specifically designed to prevent me from receiving my contractual performance bonus and commission structure. The timing and documented motivation were unmistakably retaliatory. I received explicit instructions to cite cultural alignment concerns as the formal justification despite Avery's consistently exceptional performance evaluations, she stated in her official deposition. Her testimony transformed my termination from a standard corporate restructuring into a documented case of wrongful termination and potential securities fraud. My legal counsel initiated proceedings within hours, seeking full compensation for contractual financial obligations, commission structures, and additional damages for professional reputation impairment. The legal action generated headlines across technology publications. Nexus Tech faces multi-million-dollar wrongful termination litigation amid ongoing SEC investigation. Victor's carefully constructed professional narrative was completely disintegrating. When Diana contacted me directly to express regret for her participation, I simply acknowledged her professional integrity. Strategic allies sometimes emerge from unexpected sources. The emergency board session extended for 6 hours. Though not physically present, Jonathan Hodge contacted me immediately following adjournment. "It's concluded," he stated simply. Victor had been removed. The vote demonstrated overwhelming consensus: 9 votes supporting removal, 1 abstention, 0 votes in support. Victor had been divested of his executive position, corporate communication access, and facility credentials before the meeting adjourned. "He attempted to attribute all responsibility to me," Jonathan explained. "Claimed you had orchestrated this situation from the beginning. No one found this credible." The board appointed Noah as interim CEO, tasking him with organizational stabilization while conducting comprehensive assessment regarding whether Nexus Tech remained financially viable. Victor responded to his removal with hostility. He threatened litigation against the board alleging contractual breach, insisting they lacked justification for termination. The legal department responded with professional amusement as they presented overwhelming documentary evidence against him. "He fundamentally misunderstands the situation," Jonathan informed me. "He perceives himself as the victim in this scenario." I felt a sense of professional resolution. Victor had constructed his career by appropriating others' contributions. Now he was experiencing the consequences of his own decisions. Desperate and professionally isolated, Victor initiated an unscheduled live stream on a professional networking platform, claiming he would reveal the complete factual narrative behind the Nexus Tech situation. Over 50,000 viewers connected to witness his professional disintegration. Visibly agitated and disheveled, he spoke incoherently for 30 minutes about organized conspiracies against his leadership. He characterized me as a technical saboteur and accused the board of collaborating with me to appropriate his company. His allegations became increasingly implausible as the broadcast continued. The comment section filled with professional skepticism. Former colleagues contributed their personal experiences working under his leadership. Industry observers added analytical observations about leadership accountability and organizational culture. 45 minutes into his disjointed explanation, the live stream terminated unexpectedly. Professional networking platforms immediately circulated reports that Victor had been detained on allegations of securities fraud connected to the ongoing SEC investigation. An industry insider shared an indistinct image appearing to show him being escorted from his residence by federal authorities. I refrained from public commentary. It wasn't necessary. The documented evidence was finally providing complete transparency. Watching these developments from my condominium that evening, I experienced no satisfaction in his professional collapse, only profound relief that accountability had finally materialized. 3 weeks following Victor's detention, I accepted a single interview request from a respected technology publication. We met in Quantum Paradigm's newly established headquarters, professionally designed yet understated, reflecting our organizational commitment to substance over appearance. The journalist posed thoughtful questions regarding building ethically centered technology companies, the importance of appropriate recognition for innovation, and the specific challenges women navigate in technology leadership. I responded candidly yet professionally, never directly criticizing Victor or Nexus Tech. "Do you experience vindication from these developments?" she inquired. "I experience validation," I clarified. "That represents a meaningful distinction. This situation was never about retribution. It concerned transparency and accountability." When she asked about my technical innovations, I spoke with genuine enthusiasm about the systems architecture I developed and our vision for advancing these solutions at Quantum Paradigm. Her final question emerged as we concluded: would you consider returning to Nexus Tech if offered the chief executive position? I smiled, thoughtfully pausing before responding. Why would anyone invest in reconstruction when they could architect something transformative? The feature published the following week, accompanied by professional photography of me standing confidently in our innovative workspace. The headline read, "Engineering Resilience: How Avery Morrison Transformed Professional Setback into Technological Innovation." 6 weeks following my termination, Nexus Tech filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The combined impact of the $20 million contractual reversion, client migration, and regulatory investigations had created an insurmountable financial position. Their official filing referenced technical infrastructure challenges and executive leadership transitions as contributing factors to their organizational failure. Technology industry analysts provided more direct assessment, publishing analysis such as how leadership hubris dismantled a promising technology enterprise and Nexus Tech's collapse, lessons in organizational ethics and accountability. Meanwhile, Quantum Paradigm secured an additional $5 million in venture funding. Our organization had expanded to 30 professionals, many former Nexus Tech colleagues eager to contribute within a more collaborative environment. The defining achievement materialized when we established a $30 million strategic partnership with Global Solutions, the exact enterprise client who had withdrawn from Nexus Tech following the authentication failures. They expressed particular appreciation for our transparent business practices and technical expertise. In a private communication, their chief technology officer wrote, "We're investing in your leadership vision, Avery. We're confident you'll establish the collaborative culture that was previously promised." I committed myself to fulfilling this trust. This venture transcended merely building a successful company. It represented creating the organizational culture I had always envisioned, where innovation receives appropriate recognition and professional respect forms the operational foundation. To commemorate our first major partnership agreement, I organized an intimate gathering for our team on our headquarters rooftop terrace. Beneath elegant lighting and a clear evening sky, we raised our glasses to Quantum Paradigm's promising future. Noah, now our CFO, elevated his glass to Avery, who demonstrated that maintaining professional integrity isn't merely ethically correct, it's strategically advantageous. Appreciative laughter and applause circulated throughout our group. These colleagues had accepted significant professional risk following me to an unproven venture, investing their careers in my leadership vision rather than Nexus Tech's established market presence. As conversations developed around me, Isabella appeared beside me. "A colleague asked me earlier today what you would communicate to Victor if you could speak with him now," she inquired with genuine curiosity. I realized I hadn't considered this question. I contemplated thoughtfully, gazing across the cityscape and reflecting on the team we'd assembled from Nexus Tech's organizational collapse. Then I raised my glass slightly. "Thank you for the crucible," I said quietly. "I constructed something more meaningful through it." Isabella smiled and touched her glass to mine. "To challenges and transformation," she responded. I nodded, experiencing a profound sense of professional fulfillment. "And to building organizations with lasting impact." Victor's legal proceedings remained months from commencement when his electronic communication appeared in my inbox. The subject heading simply stated, "Professional Proposal." "Avery," it began, without greeting or professionalism. "The industry has disproportionately responded to operational events at Nexus Tech. My professional reputation has suffered unjustifiably. I'm currently exploring strategic advisory opportunities to share my executive expertise while legal considerations progress." My cursor hovered over the delete function, but professional curiosity prevailed. I continued reading. "Considering your current market positioning, a strategic collaboration could provide mutual benefit. I could provide Quantum Paradigm with scaling expertise from challenges I've previously navigated. Consider this a professional courtesy before I extend similar proposals to other emerging organizations." The complete lack of self-awareness was astounding. Even now, he remained incapable of acknowledging his actions or expressing regret. He continued perceiving himself as invaluable, as the authority who could intervene and elevate my organization. I composed a single-sentence response, feeling a sense of completion as I transmitted, "We're not a cultural alignment." I then blocked his address, powered down my system, and joined my team for lunch, professionals who understood that authentic leadership involves elevating others, not exploiting them for personal advancement. Precisely 1 year following my termination from Nexus Tech, a major business publication released its newest edition. My professional portrait appeared on the cover against a backdrop of innovative technology and urban energy. The headline read, "The Innovator Who Transformed Corporate Adversity into Technological Revolution." The comprehensive feature detailed quantum paradigm's exceptional growth trajectory, our ethical approach to technology development, and the leadership insights I'd gained through Nexus Tech's organizational failure. It referenced Victor only briefly, noting his pending trial for securities fraud would commence the following month. Within Quantum Paradigm's headquarters, we professionally framed this cover and installed it in our reception area, not as recognition, but as a reminder of our organizational journey. Beneath it, we displayed our corporate philosophy: innovate with integrity, lead with accountability, succeed through collaboration. That afternoon, I moved through our innovative workspace, observing teams collaborating on technological solutions that would have been organizationally impossible at Nexus Tech. The professional environment we'd established valued innovative concepts over individual recognition, meaningful contribution over career advancement. Oliver, now our Chief Strategic Officer, presented me with our newest client implementation metrics with evident satisfaction. Do you ever experience any regret about your termination? I reflected on the coffee mug warming my palms that pivotal day, about the folder sliding across the cafe table, about the moment my professional trajectory fundamentally transformed. They terminated the wrong executive, I responded with quiet confidence.